What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation. Hiatus is over, if you noticed. So what's going on, fellas?
Anybody got any listener stories? It's a listener story.
Chris, I gotta say something about your screen, man. Is that like a screen protector or is it a privacy screen?
It's black.
I don't know. It's supposed to be big so I can see.
Man, I need that too.
Privacy screen?
No. Big words. Dang, boy, that was a.
We need to stop zooming in on some things.
Dang, that was a softball. I just lobbed up there.
Man.
Yeah. Dang. He's shameless.
This story takes place in the same town in Mexico, which I hold dearest to me. It's basically my second home. The story I'm about to tell you still shakes me to my core. I was about maybe 9 years old at the time. I came down to Mexico with my parents to visit my family during the whole summer vacation. I like this, how big the lettering is.
Yeah.
On mine, I have to go like that, and I just kind of rush it.
He's got to zoom in.
This one's really good. At the time, I didn't consider myself a religious or traditional person. I was attending Catholic school back in the States. I never really understood or grasped who Jesus was or who the Creator was as well. To be honest, what 9-year-old thinks about that? I only thought about video games or who was the best WWE wrestler at the time. Yes.
What year was this?
Dang, that sounds like me.
I know.
I think that's little Tyler.
One night I had gotten really sick from playing in the dirt too long with my cousins, and it was so hard for me to sleep that night because of my coughing and fever. Later on that night, it was maybe 2 a.m., and I was laying down in one of the beds that's right next to a window that overlooks the main street of the town and my grandmother's neighbors. Soon as I tried closing my eyes, I heard the sound of horses galloping at full speed from a distance. It made me question the whole thing because who would be riding this late at night? And the fact that the town does not have any street lights, it's pitch dark for anyone to see anything, let alone ride their horse. When the sound of the horses was getting closer, I got up and started to look out the window. As soon as the horses were getting really close, I felt a hand grab the back of my shirt and pull me down to the bed. Then a faint voice in Spanish whispered in my ear, "Stay down. The night has eyes." When the horses finally galloped next to the house, I also heard a wagon being pulled, but also a faint sound of wailing, as if there were people on that wagon crying. All I felt was a sense of dread, something I would never wish upon anyone to feel. Later on in that morning, I kept asking everyone who was in the house with me if they had heard the horses galloping at night. But everyone said no. I eventually found someone in the town who heard the wagon and the horses. They told me the wagon was La Carreta del la Muerte. I probably butchered that. Or the wagon of death, was driven by death himself. He comes around late at night to collect the souls of people who have passed on. It's said that if you are spotted by him, or if you see who the driver was, you will be taken as well. The crazy part about it all is that later on that day, we overheard that an elderly man and a lady who owned a shop had passed away that morning. I'm not sure who was the voice that saved me from being taken, but rest assured, after that encounter, I started to see and believe more things, and most people would think as myths or legend. Do they want credit?
Yeah, it's Bayless Alexander, second story. For that, I'm not only going to give you 1, 2, 3, but 4 sacred hoes.
Ooh, a sacred number.
Got the 4.
Oh.
He spun that medicine wheel.
What else you got in here?
Keep out of there.
Hey.
Shush.
If you can see it, go ahead.
Dang, it's in like 15 font.
That's what happens when you get diabetic eyes. So you got to have fun with that gigantic letter and still can't see it.
like the eye doctor exam, man.
No.
That was a good one.
That is
Who was
a
it?
good story.
Bayless?
Yeah, that Mr. Alexander.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, keep those coming. I like those Mexico stories. Those are cool, man.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? We seen Puss in Boots, and you remember how we were talking about death and like whistling? You may call it. So in that movie, death is in that movie, and when he comes, he whistles. Yeah. It's crazy. Like
The
you have
Shrek
to watch
one?
it. Puss in Boots, the
Yeah.
newest one that came out. He's like a wolf, right? Is he a wolf? Some sort of wolf, but he's a wolf and he has red eyes, hood. You don't know it's death at first, but I knew it was because he came and whistled, and we talked about that whole whistling thing about death. So he comes to get Puss in Boots because it's the last life or whatever it's called. So obviously you know what it's about. But yeah, when he comes, man, he whistles. He has a tune when he comes in.
Oh, dang.
And I thought of that episode we talked about when you don't whistle at night because you may call something, but there he was. He was there
was.
whistling.
Dang, somebody's
awesome.
listening.
Showed up.
I know. I was in the movie theater. I was like, somebody's listening.
That ain't the first time.
Get somebody with that copyright infringement.
And how it looked, picture of, was it, what's his name, man? From La Bamba, where he's like, it's not my first, not my last. Steal your stuff.
Tyler, you're so full of quotes. These
Yeah,
last-
man. That's all I've been doing is watching movies.
The quote god.
Dang.
You got to know.
Is that Bob?
Yeah.
Bob? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, it might not be him.
Yeah.
Mm.
Tyler? No.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have any stories. I guess I got the ones from Omar, but I'm gonna kind of save those if that's okay.
I'll make this announcement now. We're going to do I guess, college or like high school dorm, maybe. I'll say scholastic episodes
Classic.
Yeah.
That
Of,
Lamborghini poster.
of the scholastic fair. No, but like, if you're in college and you have like some scary, I got one that was sent to me, but we just haven't done the episode yet. But it's like a college edition or school edition of like scary stories. If you're in a dorm or something, and I've got a few of those too. But if you have any stories like that, send them to either of us, Tyler, Chris, Yehola, or me.
Yep.
And then you could send it through. You could even send a voice. What's it called? Voice text? Or
It's like a voice
message.
Yeah, voice message.
You can send a voice message if you want. We'll have it played on here, or if you just want to type it out if it's short. But yeah, we'll be doing an episode like that soon. And
Now I want to hear some Haskell. I want to hear some Bacon. I want to hear some Tahquah Sequoia dorms. Come with the heat.
where else?
Keep them clean though. Keep them clean.
Yeah, keep them clean.
Yeah, no
a lot
foul
of
language,
editing.
We got-
explicit language.
We got kids that listen to this.
Yep.
What's that? Fort Lewis.
Oh, yeah,
Fort
yeah.
Lewis.
Yeah. Trying to think of yeah.
Where else?
I'm trying to think of some other places here.
What was that? UNM?
Yeah, UNM. Mm-hmm. OU.
OU.
Yeah, OU, yeah.
Leave
got a whole
OU,
book.
leave OU out though. Nah,
Well, tell us about the season this year. No,
Oh, dang.
that's a ghost right there.
Dang. Yeah.
Dang.
I thought we put that to bed, guys. I thought we put that to bed.
Oof.
the ghost is still roaming.
Hey, we got a ball.
The
We're in
ghost
a
of
ball
season's
game.
past.
I've been getting a lot of people telling me stories about Northeastern again.
Oh, yeah.
I've been having a lot of calls on that. I wish you guys would send it to me in a text or messenger, because sometimes I can't always remember when you tell it to me verbally. So for me, I mean, the rest of these guys, they got good memories and stuff like that, but I love to hear you guys' story, and I love to put it on the air, but sometimes I can't do that unless I have something to remind me, So, again, I don't mean no disrespect. I appreciate it. Each and every one of you guys been telling me stories, but be sure to message it to me or text it to me or something.
Man, I had totally forgot about Northeastern State, man. Yeah, there's some that Seminary Hall. I know y'all got some Seminary Hall stories.
Even Sequoia down there, they got stories. Riverside.
Riverside, yep.
Man, I got several of them telling me Riverside stories when I was down a lot, and man, those were some wicked stories. Even the stories that some of the older folks told me about the Fort Sill boarding school that I visited. Man, I had tons of them. I love those stories, but please send it to me in Messenger.
What's it? Have you heard anything about is it Jones Academy?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stories about Jones. A lot of stuff going on down that way.
Yep. So anybody, if you got any stories about those places, send them to us. Text us. Voice message.
The voice message, and that's one thing for me. The voice message. I want you guys to, because I think sometimes for me, I read your stories and maybe sometimes I mess them up. I like to hear them from your point of view. For me, so if you send them to me, voice message. But I appreciate y'all.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have any stories for this episode, but we're going to talk about winter spirits.
Ooh. Sounds good. I'm glad you guys take this opportunity to talk about this. A lot of tribes, they have beliefs in these winter spirits. They have so strong beliefs in these winter spirits that they're only allowed to tell their stories during winter time. A lot of plains tribes are like that. A lot of northern tribes are like that. They won't tell stories, any kind of stories, unless it's winter time. They'll say the first snow, then they'll start telling theirs. But in Oklahoma, you wait for first snow, you might never get it. So I know things are a little bit different here, but I know a lot of those plains tribes, especially up north, they'll wait for that first snow to come in, and then they'll start telling these stories. And some of those stories, from some of these tribes are so, so strong for their people. I know a lot of times we make people mad when we say we can't say names of things. But they're super strict on, a lot of that stuff. Even though, it gets out, they hear you telling a story, they'll get on to you and say, one, you're not supposed to name it. Two, if it's not wintertime, don't tell them. So again, sometimes when you're doing those kind of events, you got to know when and what time to start telling those stories. But, I know, they talk about that first snow, and a lot of these tribes that are up north, they believe, wintertime is spirit time. It's when the spirits are most active. And so, that's their belief. They'll, take care of their home in a certain way. I don't want to, talk about their customs or their beliefs like that, but I'll just say that much that, they take care of it the way they need to take care of it. And, then they're allowed to start, sharing some of these stories, from one another. And to me, that's amazing. Again, some of these tribes, even Muskogees, we believe there's a certain spirit that comes in during wintertime. And again, just like they said, the first snow, he or it is around. However, some refer to her as her, but for my purposes, my memory purposes, I'm just going to say he, not to offend nobody. I'll just say he or it as the spirit. The spirit comes in. Also, to me, this spirit, is told that, it takes the ones that need to go. And so during wintertime, you'll have a lot of, they say, deaths. You'll hear, and I think about that a lot of times. Even like right now, I'm hearing a lot of announcements of people passing away when that major first snow hit. You had several elders that took that long walk. And so, to me, in my mind, hearing those old Muskogee stories, now I'm only talking about Muskogee Creeks, that's, kind of part of nature, during this winter time. If you were having a tough time or whatever, that spirit will come and take you, give you that relief. And, it just don't take the old, but the ones that might have been, sick or having different burdens, But there's also a different spirit that comes in too. And a lot of tribes, they have this belief. And again, they say not to name this thing because this is its time of the year, and it brings, depression and suicide, and I think about that, even the white man will tell you that, wintertime, during this time, suicide goes up real high, and, like I said, I can only speak for Muskogee people, but they talked about those things. We have certain medicines for those things. If you got your experience in those kind of things, we had people that knew how to prepare that medicine to take care of that depression or that, kind of suicidal, very sad or depressed feeling. They considered it a spirit, and in that medicine song that they sing, they name it, and they're talking to the creator to, take care of this thing, to whoever it's on, that it leave, so, I know a lot of tribes used to have that, and so, these winter spirits were to be respected, and to be honored as well. They used to say, during the change of the seasons, there's certain ceremonies that you're supposed to do. And again, I'm only speaking for Muskogee Creeks, but, again, that first snow or that first cold, they would say that first freezing temperature comes in. That's when they do this kind of like what you might say a smoking ceremony, and I have to give it to the Seminole Nation, because, they actually, posted one, and I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing, again, being Creek, and of course, Seminoles and Creeks, not to offend anyone, but we're brothers. To see them still carrying this on, made me very proud, because, a lot of tribes, they've lost a lot of that kind of stuff, that kind of knowledge. And so, again, to see them not only do that, but to share that with the world in that, aspect, I think that was great because, again, to me, the way I looked at it was they were doing that for everyone. I know a lot of people say, so-and-so shouldn't have done that, shouldn't have put that on social media, and stuff. But, they're showing love for everyone, and that's the way it's supposed to be, So, again, I know there's some tribes, they have special ceremonies during this time, that first winter, that first cold breeze or that first snow, they do it because of these spirits. And that offering or that burning of that tobacco in that certain way, gives it an offering, so it may pass on, so it don't, take someone. So, again, I know these spirits, this type of stuff isn't really talked about anymore. I don't hear it. But, I know some tribes, they practice it, but they don't know what they're practicing. They're just going through the motions because the old ones used to do that. But nobody's told them, this is why you're doing it. And so, again, if you guys follow me on Facebook and you see those Seminoles out there doing no good, that's what they're doing. And, to me, that's pretty good, that they're doing that for everybody. And for if you Seminole Nation people are listening, I say Mado.
Chris, let me ask you this. I mean, kind of going back to you mentioning, depression and kind of mental health. Do you think that's maybe for us, here, like just speaking for us in the room, do you think that's, but not practicing that type of, different, way leads to that mental health things that we're missing nowadays?
Oh yeah, I seen someone talk about this. It was a lady. She was up north, and she was really kind of tearing into her people. She was saying that every tribe, every people, every group, in the olden days, they had ceremonies that they were supposed to do. It was supposed to be done. But because we're all forgetting these things, we're all forgetting to do these certain ceremonies, you're seeing that effect on the world. You're having tornadoes where tornadoes normally don't go. You're having floods where floods normally aren't. You're having earthquakes where it shouldn't be, and it's because, according to her, certain times of the year we were supposed to honor our Creator and do these ceremonies in a certain way. And, when she said that, I know she got a lot of flack for that, but, I really believe that, for Muskogees, there's certain times of the year that we touch medicines, and there's certain foods that we eat and we don't eat, during the year. Nowadays, it's a smorgasbord all year round now. So, again, why did we have to do these ceremonies? To appease the weather, to appease the earth, to appease these spirits that can come in and take people. Every tribe and every nationality, like she said, had these certain ceremonies. You were supposed to take care of this. You were supposed to take care of that. He didn't put it all on one people. He kind of broke it up. And when she made it that reference, dang, that made sense to me.
Yeah, it does make sense.
So, you got, people down south, that do certain ceremonies, which I will say those ones down south, and I'm talking about like the Navajos, the Pueblos, the Zunis, and dang, those guys still keep it pretty strong down there. So for you guys can sit down. No, but rest of you guys, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But, again, I know a lot of other tribes, they were supposed to do certain things, but, again, due to whatever reason, due to boarding schools, due to historic trauma, due to government, coming in, taking these things away from us, it's punishing everybody, and I agree with her. I think, I know, a few tribes here in Oklahoma, still try to do their very best to carry on with what they've got. And, but that's very far and few between, so again, I don't know, but I really commend that lady for saying those things. I know she got a lot of flack for that, but I definitely agree with that, coming back, thinking about, again, and you guys heard me say this several times on this podcast, because we've gotten away from things, you see a lot of alcohol, drug abuse, physical abuse, other negativity behavior in our Indian communities because we've gotten away from these old ceremonial ways. And, I'm not blaming that on the church. I'm not blaming that on government. But what are we as a people doing to help with those things? At one time, every tribe had a society or a clan. There was no such thing as orphans in Indian communities. Never. But today we've got the highest rate of orphans in state custody. And so, that to me, like I said, that lady, I hate to say it, but sometimes the truth hurts, hearing those kind of things. But, getting back to these winter spirits, again, this is why they would do those offerings, during that first cold or that first snow, to make sure that these things don't come in and cause havoc amongst the people. And you would have medicine people that would make sure these things were done and done properly. It's a difference between doing it and doing it properly, because these spirits know, if you don't come correct, they're going to take a lot of people with them. Mm-hmm. And so you see that, just like I was saying, that first snow came, right before Christmas. Everybody knows you've been hearing a lot of people going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, again, these are those winter spirits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been around where they, when they close the grounds and, they give you medicine, to make it last until the springtime when the grounds open up again. And that's what they tell you, like this is to get you through these hard months, because the hard months are coming. And this is for you to, wash with, or, whatever you want to do with it, it's yours. But this is enough to get you through until the grounds open up again. And so it's always, to me, very important to be at that last dance, so that you can get that. And I'm very appreciative just to, still be a part of that and still, have that cultural connection and that spiritual connection to the grounds and just to nature, however, you know what I mean? So I don't know, but yeah, it's important to me. And, I know what you're saying, as far as Muskogee Creeks are concerned, but still very real, very real.
Yeah, I would say I don't really know quite a bit about the winter spirits, but what Chris is talking on when it comes to mental and physical health, just in Native communities, we lead a lot of statistics on a lot of health problems. And, I always kind of think back when you mentioned something the lady said about, when you lose basically who you are to whatever way, government, parents dying, being an orphan, whatever it is. To me, that makes total sense. Because a lot of, and they use the word westernized. A lot of us are westernized. We wear tennis shoes. The human foot's technically not really supposed to be wearing tennis shoes. It's bad for our feet and our joints. And, to me, that struck a real thick chord with me because my background's in health and physical education with a background in exercise physiology. And I think about that, the kind of the not, and it leads into the winter spirits. We lost all that knowledge, all of what these things are, what these beings are, and what these spirits are. That now we live in a world where we have heat right now. Well, we don't have to worry about outside. We're not having to bundle up and wear 16 layers of clothes to make sure that we don't have hypothermia. So yeah, that's real interesting to me. That's real. I'm gonna have to start doing some more research on that. But I appreciate you, Chris, giving that information out, because I know there's a lot of natives out here that we. I'm speaking for myself, but I know I can speak for a few other people out there that don't know these things. I didn't know. I didn't know about as much about winter spirits, but I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Another winter spirit that you hear a lot about, mainly up north, but a lot of tribes, they have the same spirit, but it's just called different. But it does the same thing as that Wendigo. Mm-hmm. That's a winter spirit. Technically, again, they always talk about during wintertime when people are, housed up in that snowy area. for some reason they kind of snap and they begin to practice cannibalism, and they, do that, and this spirit can jump from person to person, and I know this is one of the spirits that, you hear a lot about up north, but dang, it's around here too, and somewhat, I believe that, the way society is today, we've opened that door where we leave that spirit open year round, not just wintertime anymore. And so, again, it goes back to us as Indian folks forgetting those old ceremonial ways, to keep these type of entities away. Also, they have another spirit out there that causes just straight up, I don't know what you would call it, but I don't know the technical term, but just where you just lose your mind. Some people call it cabin fever, some call it, different things. But, again, this is a winter spirit that, all tribes had, a belief in. And that's why, again, they would do those offerings, to keep all these type of bad spirits away. Also, there's one that, causes sickness. Again, these Indian folks back then, they didn't know the terminology of flu or, whatever, COVID. They didn't know words like that. They just knew it was a sickness, and they would name it as a person. They had a spirit name for it, and it would come in and it would cause someone to get sick and to die. And again, that was one of the most feared, spirits back in the day. But back then, they had medicine, they had ceremonies, they had things to keep those things away. And if someone got it, then they would know, how to take care of it. Again, there's thousands and thousands of stories all through Indian country, of these beings coming in to help us, fight off these evil spirits, and they would show us the herbs and the things that we needed and the songs to sing on these herbs, to keep us well, just like Tyler was talking about at the grounds, that again, if that, that song that they do put on that medicine, it talks about those spirits. It talks about, keeping this, they have a name for it. They name it in that song. And so, again, this is a winter spirit that you're talking about. And it wasn't just Muskogee Creeks that had names for them. A lot of tribes had it. I've been to some church meetings, and I hear people praying for people that are sick, and not these ones that are doing it today, but I'd say about 20 years ago, you would hear them talk about that sickness as a person. Even if it was in that church or even if it was in that teepee, they had certain medicines that they used to use. They just didn't all gather up and sing and then go eat in the afternoon and then run off to the bar again. They took care of things the way it was supposed to. And, nowadays, again, we've forgotten the importance of every part of these ceremonies, from picking the herbs to preparing the wood to getting the lodge or the teepee ready or the grounds ready. Mm-hmm. There was etiquette all through that. And so, a lot of that etiquette that they used to do, they would name some of these things that would come in and the one that was going to make the medicine, and even the one that would go gather the medicine, they would have a ceremony to help them to go do these jobs. It wasn't, oh, I'm just gonna go find this cedar and that's it. I'm gonna boil it and that's that. No, there was whole thing, and it wasn't just cedar that they looked for. They looked for certain herbs, certain things that helped them to make that medicine work. And whether it was suicidal behavior, whether it was where you get sick, there was different sicknesses, spirits out there. It wasn't just plain just like flu. If you want to kind of keep it in a, what did you call it, white man way? What did you call it?
Westernized
way. If you want to think of a westernized way, you'd have a spirit that caused sickness. You'd have a spirit that would cause alcoholism. You'd have a spirit that made you abuse drugs. You had a spirit that make you abuse people, man or woman. You'd have a spirit that would cause you to lose your mind. All these were the spirits that were released during wintertime. And if you think about it, up in Alaska and, up in the north where they get snow and they don't really go places, you hear about those kind of things. So for me, to me, that sounds real. Not only here in the United States, but across the waters where they have big snows. Even Russia, even places like that, they had beliefs kind of like that, in their olden days, which, my understanding, they still have those kind of beliefs today. And so, to me, like I said, that what that woman had to say, I agree. It just it wasn't just laid upon Indian folks, but it was laid upon all nationalities to do these ceremonies. And we've all forgotten that kind of stuff. And so you're having havoc everywhere. But, I know this show is talking about those winter spirits. And so, again, these winter spirits that you're talking about, they all had names. Sometimes, we need these medicines, these old ways to help us combat some of this stuff that's in Indian country. But, we're so far removed, I don't know if we can ever get any of that back.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the whole mindset of like winter too, it's like negative all the time. Everybody goes, the days are shorter, or it's like, this is my depression season. I'm going to stay in, I'm going to be a hermit of some sort, or I mean, it's just like all these. Is that like this? The bad one you're talking about, is that what it spreads to? Is like yeah. this season right here, this winter season, like it's just like so. Like to me now, like I mean, I kind of used to think like that too. Of like, it just made me feel lonely, or like depressed, or like the sun wasn't out as long, so it got dark earlier, and it just made me like, I was just like going along with everybody else of like, it's the same thing too of like, you think about suicides and all that and depression, and it really hits hard during this time because I see it all the time on social media. It's not even friends, it's just like random people that share stuff from other parts of the world too, of like winter season. And we talk about this stuff, and like I said, man, it makes me think all the time about what we talk about, and it just made me think of like this entity spreading that negativeness of winter, when now I don't think of winter like that at all. Like it's just within the year, I just move forward. I don't think of like depression I used to have. I don't think like that no more. It's more of like just living now.
Well, if you really think about it, think about all your years that you've been around. Mm-hmm. When you was a child, you loved that snow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wintertime was a blast.
True.
You went out there. There was no school.
Yep.
It was blessing all the way around.
Presents.
Yep. But when did it start to get depressing? You have to think about that. Mm-hmm. And again, that thing was out there. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you feel like that when you were young, and but then you reach a certain age, and then it starts to get depressing, like an adult, adults, this is the time of the year where, man, craziness happens, all kinds of stuff. So, to me, I know that those spirits are real and they're causing havoc all over the place.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I had a story about offerings. I mean, it's kind of opposite of it because it was in California, but my my bro Dukon Harris, he was on here and he told the story, but he went a little more in depth on Rob's podcast, but because he was trying to remember what all that happened when he was on here, but he remembered more after that. But he was going to California and his grandma said, when you go there to the beach, offer some tobacco. He didn't know why, but he did it anyways, right? And so hearing this story again and then again, and then we do this podcast and we talk about offerings and stuff, it made me put, almost 2 and 2 together where he did offer that and that was it, and I think he said like maybe a month later or something, they went to the beach, right? And then they were surfing and they got to a point where they got way out there, like no man's land pretty much. And the current was really strong and it was just like almost like to the point where, dying was a possibility, drowning and everything. And he said he kept trying to swim on his side to go to the shore, but nothing was working. And his other friend was with him, and he was really scared. He was just like, don't leave me, don't leave me behind. And it's just fear, because he wasn't gonna leave him, like no way, But it's just like that fear of like, if you get out of here too, I want to get out of here as well. And so, but he said nothing was working, and he wasn't trying to think negative, just positive. And then he said, like, all of a sudden, it was like a Sunday afternoon, and there were no lifeguards. And he said, all of a sudden, like, this guy came out of nowhere, and he didn't get a good look at his face because the sun was out, and he said it was too bright, and he was tired. And this guy, whoever he was, grabbed him, like, snatched him up. He swam out there, I guess. He had no boat or nothing, and he said, I'm here to help. And he said, when this wave comes, I'm going to throw you on it. And he was just like, okay, he was like real drowsy or whatever. And he's like, you ready? And he said, yeah. And he said, this guy was so strong that, because Dukon's a grown man. And he was like, this dude was so strong that he literally like picked him up and threw him on his board onto that wave. And he said he just rode that wave all the way to the shore, no problems. And he said his buddy did the same thing too. Threw him on that wave, and it was like that guy, like nothing to that guy. Like he was almost standing up, like where they were, and he just like, and then came into the shore, laid down on the beach, and then like his family came, and they're like, "Where were you guys at?" And they're like, "We almost died, pretty much." And they're talking about this guy just came out of nowhere and saved us. And he said he got up and he looked around, nobody was out there. He never seen that guy. It was only them on the beach. And and I put that offering with that story too, as like, that was probably like that saving him, and we kind of joked around after that. I said, damn, it's Thor, but no, but like I put 2 and 2 together because we always talk about this stuff and the offerings and everything, and to have just some random person or something come out there and just not even scared of anything and throw you like you're nothing onto this wave way out in the middle of nowhere, and you're safe. I wanted to tell him that maybe he'll listen to this, but I think that's what that that offering was, that ocean. It was almost like what would you say, giving back or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Again, those Hawaiians and all these coastal Indians, they believe in giving that ocean, an offering. Muskogees were the same way. Mm-hmm. When we lived by that big water, we would give it offerings, and that was to take care of us. Those Hawaiians, I think, are pretty cool on their stories like that, because they believe, their spirit. I forget what it's called, but one of their spirits is like a shark entity, and they'll come and help them out. And, you know, I said, dang, most sharks will eat you, won't they? That's not in our culture, you know. So our clan believes that, you know, they can help you out. There's other spirits in that water that will come and help you out, and those are the ones that they give offerings to. If you know, they're fishermen, and they go out there, and you ask all these Alaskan natives that, you know, fish, you know, they'll talk about those spirits, and that's where those guys talk about those mermaids and stuff. You know, they're ones that have those kind of stories, you know, of those beings in the water. So yeah, giving those offerings, you know, you'll be amazed.
No, that's a wicked story, though. That's a wicked story, especially when it comes to that. Because if you, like Chris mentioned, when it comes to those winter spirits, you know, doing the correct ceremony. So it sounds like, who was it? Dukan, you said?
Dukon.
Dukon. It sounded like he did the right ceremony in that moment that, you know, kept him from not perishing in that water. That's a great story.
Yeah, getting back to these winter spirits, you know, many tribes, you know, they really believe in these things, and you know, a lot of tribes, they have these stories, you know, back in their olden days in their home country, you know, even like the Creeks, you know, when we were in Florida, Georgia, Alabama area, you know, and I know the Cherokees have, you know, their stories too, you know, in Cherokee, North Carolina, you know, of these old winter beings, you know, coming down and doing things. And, you know, I hear these stories, but, you know, the story that I always like to hear, and it's not even a native story, but it's that Donner Party, you know, the one that traveled through those, Donner Party, through those, I forget what, down in Colorado, you know, they were traveling through this passage, and they got stuck in there during wintertime, and they ended up having to eat each other, you know. And so, you know, hearing that story, you know, being Creek, you know, we would have said, you know, that was one of those spirits that made them make that way, you know. It forced them to stay there, then it forced them to eat people. And so, you know, just hearing that kind of story, you know, I liked it because, you know, it had all those elements. And there's a similar story, you know, during, you know, wintertime, kind of around those Appalachian Mountains area. You know, there was a band of Creeks going through there. And I don't know what they were going through there for, but my understanding, they were going through there and they got caught in winter blizzard, you know. Now they didn't say it snowed, but you know, I know they talked about it being super cold, so I am assuming it snowed, and they couldn't travel, so they ended up having to make a camp there. And they said that during this time, during this camp time that they had to take, that they would hear these voices from the dark, you know, speaking to them. And one of the warriors, you know, he knew things, and you know, he began to make medicine. And they said, you know, he got visited by this little person, this LP, and he gave him this medicine to brought him everything he needed. And you know, he was able to make that medicine to doctor him and his little war party, I guess you might say, and to keep them from, you know, doing that. You know, and they were in there for a long time. I know it was, you know, over a month time period. And they said that when they were done, they all agreed that they all heard those things and saw those things coming around their camp. And back then, those Indians were very knowledgeable of things. Today we have such strong disbelief that we can't see things. We can't hear things. We can't communicate with the spirits. We can't communicate with, we got to have tools to do it. Those old Indians, way back then, they could see and feel and hear things. They could communicate with those things. And so in that story, it talks about those things. So if you ever go traveling, that was one of the things that you're supposed to take with you. And that was the moral to that story. If not, just like that story I told, you might end up eating each other. So, or losing your mind, killing each other, or, something worse. So anyway, I know a lot of people say, well, I don't believe in that stuff. I don't believe it. But wait till you're in that situation. You'll see what you have to do.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's really interesting because, like you mentioned that passage, that group that basically ate themselves. You hear like, especially up in those mountain areas, and like especially like where the Yeti, that mountain range that the Yeti's notoriously known for. What is it? Not Everest. I can't remember the name of the mountain, but like the people that get lost up there. And I've heard a story one time I was kind of doing some research, and a search and rescue guy was telling a story about a time where they were trying to find a missing person. Well, when they were kind of, going and trying to find this person, they got split up. And all of a sudden, and this, like I said, it's in the middle of the winter. Like, they're up there in snowshoes and all this stuff, and they get split up. Well, the woman was gone, and they couldn't find her. And basically what she was hearing was something whispering in her ear. And now she's up. Now I want to say this is in the U.S., and I can't exactly remember where this story took place. Like I said, I read this story a while ago. But she was hearing those voices. And it was like, hey, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do that. And she was like, well, that doesn't sound right. This is what she's talking to this spirit or whatever. And eventually she ends up finding the person that's missing. And the spirit's telling her to eat that person. And so she ends up not listening, and she ends up somehow making her way back to the search and rescue group that she was affiliated with. And the whole time she said, yeah, whatever this was it wasn't like it was someone, physical in front of her. It was more like someone that was inside her head. And it was telling her, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to do this. So when you mentioned that, it just kind of hit that, that ding. I've heard a story similar to that. So that's pretty interesting, to have that type of entity or that type of, some people say, oh, it's just, there's people out there that'll say, well, it's physical. So when your body reacts to coldness and this and this and this happens. Sometimes you can't explain why you're reacting to that situation that you're in. You're lost. You're hungry. You're looking for. You're trying to find your way back, and you're also trying to find a person. Like, there's a whole lot of situations there in that one moment, in that situation that she was in. So I agree. I believe in these things. I believe in a lot of spirits and beings, and I believe in a lot of things that other people don't believe in. But no, that's very interesting though. To when you mentioned that group. It was Colorado, you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was very interesting.
Was that the plane crash?
No, that was like way back in the Western days. When
okay.
Colonized and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But there was an airplane crash somewhere.
That's what I was thinking of.
And they did the same thing, ate each other.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, there's a movie too.
Yeah.
Forgot the name of it, but I watched it when I was a kid, and that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, they got in that plane crash, and they were stranded, and nobody's coming, and they ate the dead people that were there, and they ate them.
I think there was only 2 or 3 survivors, but when they found them, boy, they was So where everybody else at?
They were jacked.
Oh.
Have you seen that movie? Is it Ravenous?
Yes.
Have you seen that, Chris?
No, I haven't seen it.
Damn, that's a crazy movie, but it's basically about cannibalism. It's set back in Calvary days, I guess.
I think so, yeah.
And they find this guy that's a cannibal, and you just have to watch it. I don't want to spoil it, but it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's a crazy movie. It's Ravenous, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to watch it. You might give it 5 fry breads.
Yeah.
Dang.
I don't know about that one. No.
6 fry breads? No, no, but I was gonna talk about talk about sickness too, man. Dang, I got sick after Thanksgiving, the day of, I believe. But man, it was really weird, you know. And like I said, this pod makes me think about a lot of stuff too, and now even more. But it's so crazy that whatever it was, I guess flu or something. You know, if we go back to the winter season's coming, you know, get ready to fight the flu and all this stuff. And dang, I got it, man. And it was a really weird sickness because I woke up and I was so cold. Like the heat was on though, and I had blankets on, but dang, man, it was just like my body was freezing and I couldn't get warm. And he got hit with that nausea and the headache, and man, it was weird. It was a really weird sickness. I was COVID, but then I was like, I don't know, man. I didn't get cold the last time I got COVID, and it was just like, and I got fever, I believe. What was it, 102, 103?
Dang.
Yeah, I had high fever, but it only lasted maybe a couple of days, and I started feeling better after that. But still, that congestion and everything, you know, and it hit me hard, man. I thought. I was trying to sleep on my side so I wouldn't get, you know, that gunk in my lungs and stuff. I was trying to sleep on my side and my stomach, and every time I tried to lay on my back, man, it was just like wheezing, like. And then, man, I was like, dang, is this it? I was like, dang. So just sat there and laid there and prayed. I slept though, man. Took what medicine we have and drank some onion water. That helped a lot too, but. I mean, that was pretty scary too. Like, I was just sitting there like, dang, this might be it. Because it was kind of hard to breathe. Dang. It was really weird. Thought positive, though, that entire time.
Man, well, that's good.
Yeah. But that made me think, too, sickness coming in and this, you know, the being we talked about, so.
Yeah. That's a wicked one right there. And I think about that, too, you know, again, with the... You know, cold and flu season, as soon as it hits, you know, everybody always says that. But, you know, again, those old ones, you know, they might not have had the terminology, but they knew what they were talking about. So, that's awesome.
Yeah. Being sick? I'm just kidding.
Knowing how not to get sick, you know. You take that, like Mr. Randall was talking about, you know, at the grounds. You take that medicine, you know, if it's made properly by the proper person, those guys won't get sick. I don't care. You know, you look at that, you know, like up north, you know, they have that polar bear challenge, you know, where they get first time that the water freezes over the lakes, they'll chop a hole and they jump in there, you know, and that's supposed to be healing somewhat, but now I can't even put my toe in just the lukewarm water. Bobby, no. Much less jump in that, you know, frozen lake. Man, I can't imagine doing that. But
yeah, people are starting to do ice baths now, and they buy those 150-gallon stock tanks. I was thinking about buying one because, like you said, like that stuff is healing. You know, to be in that cold water like that, and I mean they just leave it outside. They fill it up. Right now, it's like perfect because it snowed. It turns into ice, and then you just break it apart and you sit in it. And what I was reading was it's like I think they said about 11 minutes a week you sit in it, and it's supposed to eliminate like high blood pressure. It wakes you up. It evens blood flow and all that. And then there's even more benefits to it. So right then and there, and then like sauna too. You know, you sit in sauna for. I think they said like 56 minutes a week, but that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time.
That's a long time to be in a week to be in a sauna, like, because I used to do sauna. I used to sit in the sauna for like 2 hours or about an hour a day, and to think 56 hours a week, that is crazy.
Dang,
but
that is crazy.
There's so much like health benefits to that too. You know, they said it helps with like hidden sicknesses, like I guess like tumors maybe, or you know, evens out a lot of stuff within your body. And you know, if you're fasting too, that's healing as well, is what I've been reading too. Me and Chef Nico, were talking about all that ancestral eating stuff. So it's a lot of interesting things that you could just do. But like you said, they're hard because it's cold.
Well,
you know that fasting ceremony, you know, a lot of tribes, well, a lot of people used to practice that. You know, even the good book talks about fasting, you know, and that was one thing that, you know, that's part of, you know, for Muskogees, you know, making medicine and doing those kind of things, you know. Sometimes you have to show Creator how bad you want this. And, you know, I know nowadays they might fast from 8 in the morning till noon. But heck, who eats between that anyway, you know? But, you know, those old times, they would fast for over 4 days, you know. And I know nowadays diabetes is real strong, but, you know, back then they would fast for, you know, a long time, especially if they really were needing something. I knew people that would fast for at least 2 weeks, and I'm talking about without food and water. You know, I don't know how long you can go without water, but it's not.
I think 3 days.
You know, you're not supposed to go too long without that water. But those guys would do it for a long time, you know, a couple weeks, and just to show, you know, who they are to the Creator. You know, those people cross the water, those Hindu Indians. You know, that one guy, he fasted for
a long time. Yeah, it was a while.
Yeah, so they show that it can be done. The human body can do it.
Yep.
You know, but you gotta want it. You know, and even those guys that practice that kind of belief over there, they tell you have to mentally, you know, get strong. Even those sun dancers, you know, to do that sun dance, you know, to put their body through all that, it's mental, you know, and, you know, it takes a lot, you know. So, again, you know, to me, you know, a lot of those health benefits, yeah, they're tough, but sometimes you need to do it for health-wise.
You know, and that's one thing that, like I said, I mentioned before, like I said, I'm always reading something, and they say basically our body temperatures, you know, since here in the last 100 years or however long AC's been invented, our body temperatures went down. So we're less susceptible for the cold, and we're less susceptible, like we're getting hurt. Like the sun hurts us, and you know, obviously the cold hurts us, and so the heat. So we're getting to a point now where, like I said, westernized, where we're enjoying the luxuries of AC heaters. You know, back in the old days, they was wearing what, like one thing, maybe a bear coat or whatever, wherever they were from, beaver skin, like, you know, beaver coat. Like it wasn't like they were, you know, like us. Like I got 2 layers on right now, and you know, so we're to a point now where, like I said, we're westernized. We're enjoying, like we can sit here during the summertime in 70-degree, you know, weather basically in our homes. We go outside, it's 100 degrees, and we're like, God, it's so hot out here. But then back in the day, they was walking around with nothing on, basically. You know, so it's crazy how, you know, just a little bit of a sweater can just change, you know, everything, basically, you know, and changes our body heat, body temperature, you know, the internal, you know, organs and all that stuff. So, yeah, this has definitely been a pretty interesting podcast. When we take, you know, like I was thinking winter spirits like in like monsters and like, no, but Chris always surprises me when he you know, when he comes up like with a topic or something that, you know, I don't think of. I truly don't ever think of, you know, certain stuff like that. You surprised me. I was like, whoa, okay, this is stuff that we need to know. Like, you know, I'm 28 years old, and my generation seems like we kind of, you know, we're losing ourselves in the material things. We're losing ourselves in, you know, mental, like we're losing our minds over the things that are, you know, that are easy. And so this episode to me is super keen to know that, you know, these things are still out here.
Now, if we get 5,000 subscribers on our YouTube, Chris will do the ice bath.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Ice and fasting. I don't know. See, I had that niece earlier. She cooked me a pie, a coconut cream pie earlier. I was over here shaking. I need something to eat. She hooked me up. So, Charmin, appreciate that. That was a good pie you made there. So, but I'll do anything else you guys want. But.
Oh my gosh!
All right, 10K. No.
All right, for that we'll do it.
Y'all better go do that because I'm trying to see that. I'm trying to be here to see that. Dang, Chris get all froze up. Like, man, looking blue.
Dang,
Mr. Freeze.
God.
Dang, you looking like Mr. Deed's foot.
Dang. Dang it. God.
Mr. D.
Mr. D. I ain't seen that in a while.
But yeah, true. You know, I didn't know what to expect for Winter Spirits. I was thinking, yeah, Wendigo. But I think that might be its own episode as well. There's way more to talk about that. And even like Yetis, you know. I don't know too much about Yetis. I always thought they were like out of or over the waters and everything. Mm-hmm. But do we have them here too?
Well, technically, you know, they're a Bigfoot entity. And so, you know, they have all the same things, but they just live in colder weather. So you would look at, you know, Alaska and Canada as your Yeti more type Bigfoot. So
Bigger too, aren't they? A lot bigger.
Bigger, you know, hairier. And a lot of times they say they're white instead of brown and black and red. You know, a lot of them down this way, they're those colors like that. So
yeah, I'm excited for that episode because Russell and I had been going back and forth on that guy that basically died when he shot one. Remember, he was driving his car and he took a video of it up on the hill, on that mountain.
Oh, they're trying to say that, yeah, like a giant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen that one, Chris?
I don't think so.
I have to send it to you, but yeah, this guy got footage of, where was he at?
It was in the Northwest.
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest.
But there's this mountaintop, and he's driving, and, you know, he's on his phone or whatever, and he zooms in on this, he tries to zoom in, you know, it's way up there, and there's like this giant man whatever
it
being,
is. Yeah.
you know, Yeti, Sasquatch, but it's giant, it's humongous, and, you know, he's like, what is this, you know, and everybody's kind of, and there's different I think there's other videos too, but they're not as good as his is like the best like version of it. And it's clearly like this giant being of some sort on top of that mountain, and it's just kind of pacing or standing there, and you know, and it sucks because he can't zoom in enough. He's way down at the bottom, so, and the phones, you know, they only have so much megapixels and everything to actually zoom in on it. You would need an actual like camera that does that kind of work, but clearly this thing is giant. It's a giant being. And then like I heard, you know, this might be true, might be not, but he died suddenly after that.
Out of nowhere.
You know, people are saying like he was, you know, killed off because of that.
Yeah.
You know, it was something that people weren't supposed to see, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know the real story behind it. I was just like, that's just talk on different social medias about that whole incident. But
that story is very interesting.
I'll have to show you the video though.
Sounds like that Bigfoot put that hex on him.
Yeah.
His family took care of him that old Indian way.
Yeah. Dang, Primal Rage way. Tyler Randall way. No. Bigfoot, what do you say? Hey, his claim to fame, his catchphrase, if we ever do shirts for him, is it's gonna say Bigfoot's Wild Weekend. And he says that every episode. And so I'm doing it for you, Tyler. You're not even here, but I'm pointing at you.
Somebody on our YouTube comment section said, I'm going to watch Bigfoot's Wild Weekend now. It was on one of our episodes where we just talked about Oh, I think it was when we were trying to explain how we ran into that movie, and it was towards the end of that episode, and somebody in the comment section said, "I'm gonna search for Bigfoot's Wild Weekend now."
Yeah, man, gotta get the footage right. But yeah, that dude's crazy, man. And I'm gonna petition to the group too. I think we should do a Tyler Randall outtakes for New Year's. I don't know. I think that's a good. He's probably got a good 35 minutes of just straight outtakes.
Blooper episode.
Man, just dang, double deuce.
God, I forgot about that one.
We need to have the TikTok live. Like the dude, that is crazy.
Tyler,
appreciate you, man.
He's gone.
Appreciate you. You and your goofy outtakes, man. Thank you for that.
He's somewhere doing that double deuce. God,
double ply.
God. Double plop.
Wrapping it up.
Plop.
Dang, got that thick. That toilet paper that thick.
Look like boxing gloves, boys. They're coming out, boy. Muay Thai style, boy. Give you that death touch with that.
Tyler, no, not even here.
Oh my god! Even at the beginning of this episode, he was like, he gave him a softball. Like,
oh yeah, the privacy screen.
Oh my god!
You need one too, Tyler. Have you guys got any more to add to the Winter Spirits?
I thought Chris killed it, man. Chris bodied this episode, and I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, a lot of great info. Once again, I appreciate it. Everybody else appreciates it as well. Really makes you think about a lot of things. But tell everybody where to follow you.
Yahola Tiger, Facebook, TikTok, One Man Band 918. Warcry Podcast is available basically everywhere Unsolved Mysteries at the Reservation is. New episodes come out every Sunday.
You can find me on Christopher Honka Hill on TikTok and on Instagram.
Tyler Randall, check him out on Instagram at Skoden Cinema and at Pump Action Podcast. Check out both those podcasts. Well, they're not two. They're the same. They're under the same. They're under the same umbrella of Skoden Cinema. So, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, check out Skoden Cinema. Go like the Skoden Cinema page on Facebook. There's two of them. One's a private one, and one's a public one. You could add yourself to both of them and ask them why there's a private one. I don't know what's in that one.
You might not want to know. All kind of things just corrupt you right there, boy.
But yeah, go check them out. And if you have any stories, send them our way to Tyler, Chris, Yahola, or myself.
Hey, for me, guys, voice message.
Send a voice message, text it. Just make it clean as well. Don't want to make a lot of edits. So, and check me out, Russell Sun Eagle on Facebook. At Okie Podcast on Instagram, at Rustamus49 on Instagram as well. Check out Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation on Instagram. Follow us on TikTok at Reservation_Mysteries. Check out the YouTube channel, Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation. Subscribe, hit that bell to notify you when we have a new episode.
10K, guys. Chris, like I said,
10K.
Chris has got something for y'all. 10K.
He'll get an ice bath at 10K. And
y'all don't even want to hear what 20K is.
God.
Tyler Randall getting ate by a snake. No. Eat up.
And listen to Unsolved Mysteries of the Reservation wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever. And yeah, so stay spooky, everybody.